We'll go to another huge, huge game. Very good teams. The Buffalo Bills are taking on the Houston Texans at Houston. Now, we wanted to get our resident Houston Texans guy on the pod. We will do so at some point this year. But so far, these teams are both 3-1 heading into this game. Very, very high octane offenses. We might have wished we could have saw more to date, especially from Buffalo. I mean, they got smoked by Baltimore. Who knows what it could have been? Obviously, I still think Josh Allen is lighting the world on fire. It might be a 2-horse race now between Lamar and Josh, but I still think Josh is my favorite for the MVP this year. Houston seems like great on defense. It seems like they've been sputtering at times on offense. Wondering how Buffalo's going to handle this Houston Texans offense after a poor showing against Baltimore. I'll let you guys take this however you want. It seems like Buffalo is having real issue with passes over the middle of the field. I think Teron Johnson has a lot to do with that, him being out. As far as his status, he's questionable with that forearm injury. Hope he plays because they can really use him this week with that devastating receiving core in Houston. If you guys want to take this one, be my guest.
It's a 1-point spread. The Bills are actually favored, going into Houston. Over-unders at 47.5. Team totals are at 24 and 23. I think at this point, I mean, the only defense that we've seen CJ Stroud really, look struggled against is Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings defense. Shocker. They're number one in the league, if not close to it. They're playing out of their minds on the defensive side of the ball. I think the connections that he's been, able to make with Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs in the red zone, he's become his primary red zone target. One note for this, Joe Mixon looks like he may miss this game. So it could be
Again.
and it could be Damian Pierce in the backfield along with Dare Agumbawale, who scored a touchdown last week. So, I mean, they're getting some sort of production. I'd like to see, it seems like Damian Pierce was kind of, written off a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of questions on this offensive line, specifically with Laramie Tunzel and how and just the output that he
Most
had.
penalties. Most penalties in the league to date.
Most penalties to the league to date against that Minnesota defense. It was giving him fits, and it was giving the entire Texans offense fits. I think this is a completely different game with against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Matt Milano is out for the year. I like the Texans to be, I think they'll be able to move the ball a lot here. I think a lot of the questions are going to lie on, how they're going to stop Josh Allen, who is the number one quarterback in the league right now without Stephon Diggs, who was on the team they're going to be playing. I mean, I think it's a major credit to Sean McDermott, who I think going into the season was definitely on the hot seat. I mean, I'd like to see a little more production out of James Cook, especially in the passing game where it seems like he's really thrived. And maybe it seems like he loses that connection with Dalton Kincaid. I mean, it's kind of the wide receiver core is what it is. I think he will be a major factor. And I know the Texans defend tight ends very well so far this year. It's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be a focal point of the offense. I like Houston here just with kind of the momentum they are riding. And, CJ Stroud had the bounce back game, 3 touchdowns last week. We'll see, but it seems like a lot of those connections, especially with Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, are coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's going to be a game that's a duel between C.J. Stroud and Josh Allen. I think the question is going to be who is able to lead their offense to more success against defenses that have their own questions on them, right? I mean, we've seen that you can run the ball against the Texans. We've seen that there are paths to victory against C.J. Stroud, and certainly you can run the ball and look like the more physical team against the Bills, because the Ravens did it for 60 minutes of that game on Sunday night. So, yeah, I think it's going to come down to the team that's more physical, the team that is going to, I hate to say wants it more, but I think that the Bills are going to be a motivated team here after getting embarrassed on Sunday night. And I think they're going to prove with Josh Allen. I have a hard time betting against Josh Allen this season, even with the connection that Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud have been able to develop here and really establish Nico Collins as one of those 1A receivers in the NFL. But once again, I think that the Ravens put such a beating on the Bills on Sunday night, and the Bills are too good of a team to not rebound from it. I think they're going to get their running game going against the Texans. I think they're going to get back to doing what they were doing before they ran into the Ravens. I think the Bills are going to get right with a win here in Houston.
Christian,
You can't let Stephon Diggs win after all this.
Yeah.
After all the events of the past year. Yeah.
Christian, what do you think the impact NFL conduct policy? Von Miller is going to be suspended for 4 games. I mean, what kind of hit do you think that takes the Buffalo defense?
There's a lot of things that I have some gripes about with it as far as that's concerned, because we are talking about Joe Mixon a little bit, and it's my guy TJ Edwards that did it. But I got to be honest with you, it's a hip drop tackle. He's missed however many games since then. If anyone deserves a suspension, it's him. And comparing that to what Derwin James did last week, it's a lot of, pick and choose here, and I'm not okay with it. And even the gameplay, some of the calls, I mean, Mike, when we get to Cleveland, holy Christ, that Nick Harris call, just a lot of selective stuff that I don't know if you could solve it with full-time refs, which I think everyone's been calling for years. But man, there's some pick and choose stuff that I really grinds my gears sometimes. But man, it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a shootout. What was the over the points total on this game?
Over under is 47.5. Bills are 1-point favorites.
I'll take it.
They've allowed 16 points a game. I mean, the defense is stepping up. Is stepping up for the Bills. 6 takeaways so far, to this point. I mean, it's been, and they're without several starters on the defense. Yeah. I mean, they've played very well. It'll be curious to see, with the Von Miller suspension, how much that's gonna maybe hamper him down. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to look at this. You got to look at this game and pick who you think the better quarterback is, and I think we can all agree, as great as C.J. Stroud is, Josh Allen is Josh Allen.
And we do have to shout out A.J. Epinesa and Greg Rousseau. They have stepped up. They are the starters, and Von Miller has been playing extremely well in the spot snaps he's been getting. So they should be able to hold out for a week, cover him for a week. No Von Miller. But, yeah, I think it'll be a shootout. The big thing for Houston is, can they run the ball? Because as you mentioned, no Mixon. He's questionable still. We'll see what happens. And then even Pierce, you mentioned he's probably going to be a big aspect, but he is dealing with a hamstring injury, a hamstring issue. So we'll see how well he is or what percentage he is on Sunday.